O God in Heaven, The Wretched Diary of Mary Chesnut, Part 27, Subpart C, July 12th, 1861. We spent this day on a quest for a physician loyal to our cause who would put Mr. Chesnut's ankle in a cast. President Davis advised us so, stating Yankee physicians are little more than pharmacists with scalpels, and they will stop at nothing to sabotage the wounds of a good Southerner. Toward supper, we found a veterinarian willing to assist us. Considering the behavior most frequently exhibited by Mr. Chesnut, perhaps a veterinarian is indeed most appropriate for all his medical needs. Mary Chesnut. July 13th, 1861. I awoke this morning to learn Mr. Chesnut had returned to our plantation in Camden. His note is as follows. My dearest Mary, love of my life, business necessitates I return to our lovely home in Camden. My heart aches to see you once more. Yours truly, Colonel James Chesnut. I presented the note to our delegation, informing them of Mr. Chesnut's absence, an absence most certainly instigated by the words of that wretched bartender. The delegation's concern could not have been more genuine. Mr. Chesnut is, after all, recognized as the most influential Confederate, the quintessential rebel. Let's just cancel the summit, President Davis finally moaned, his countenance grave as he rubbed his whiskers. Yes, sir, General Lee stated flatly, rising from his chair, not questioning or offering mitigation to the order just received. Hold up, Mr. Beauregard said, with a furtive wink at Mr. Lee. He moved to the edge of his seat before continuing with a smile. I know. Let's let Mary give a speech in place of Buddy. They all looked at him with bewilderment. You know, women's rights and all that horse shit. We can put Mary up on that day. Hey, that girl will really shine. After the briefest pause, the time needed for them to comprehend such an idea, they agreed in a chorus of hurrahs and backslaps. After they poured a round of drinks, the president pulled me aside. Can you put something together? And then do a little rehearsal for us before supper tomorrow. I nodded without trepidation. Now, alone in my room, Mr. Chesnut having returned home, I find myself spending the evening in the solitude of my hotel lodging. I think not of tomorrow's rehearsal. There's nothing to think of, not a thing to worry about, for the cause of the South is great, and that is self-evident. No, I must say, I think not at all of tomorrow's supper gathering. Rather, I think of others who have stayed in this very hotel room. Their smells and stains remain, a throng of unknown hotel guests, their naked adventures, their pleasure sought and wrought on this very bed in scenes of ecstasy, salaciousness, adulterous affairs, midnight rendezvous and illicit dalliances. Oh God, at the very thought I ache with a desire. As I undressed myself tonight, I thought of my first experience in a hotel such as this, many years ago, in my adolescence, a year before my marriage to Mr. Chesnut. It was at a family reunion of my mother's side. I was 16 years of age. My first cousin, Harvey Boykin, was 12. We danced explosively with each other the whole of the night. We shared many glasses of punch and more than a few cookies. Our parents had told us not to leave the ballroom, but lo, we could not obey. Sneaking off down the hotel's great hall, we went, led by our lust, without knowing what for, only that we must be alone. We entered an unoccupied guest room in the dark, our eyes adjusting slowly to the milky moonlight filtering through the blinds. Without words, I unbuttoned my dress. His trembling hand cupped my bare, tender breasts as he twirled his tongue about my hard pink nipples. Guiding his free hand, I directed him to my nether regions. Instinctively, he pressed his small fingers into my creamy jar of mayonnaise. First one, then 4, then his whole fist. As he yanked at his juvenile manhood, small and free from the hairs of puberty, I found myself jerking uncontrollably, convulsed with rhythmic pleasure. Oh God, how I do miss my sweet little cousin Harvey Boykin. He married another of our cousins some years later and moved to Louisiana. Oh, Harvey Boykin, my first love. Mary Chesnut. July 14th, 1861. This night finds me at the depot, awaiting a train bound for the South. I did not give my rehearsal speech to the delegation. I was not able. It was a speech I had planned so well, all about how the slaves benefit from slavery, the moral superiority of the South, freedom and rights. And it was taken from me. Taken! My dreadful sister. I hate her. I hate her. She ruined everything. As I entered the dining hall to light applause, President Davis introduced me to a veritable who's who of the Confederacy, all dining upon hors d'oeuvres in anticipation of my appearance. Everyone, this is Miss Mary Chesnut. He smiled and raised his crystal goblet. I know she needs no introduction. I know. He extended his hand and grasped mine own. Mary and her husband, Buddy, have done remarkable good works for us. For years they have represented the gold standard in Southern aristocracy. I batted my fake eyelashes and smiled through pouted lips as he continued. In fact, no woman is more the Southern belle than Miss Mary. Thoughtful, intelligent, beautiful, open-minded, empathetic, and courteous. I could go on, but I must refrain, else we'll be here all night. A murmur of polite laughter rolled across the room. Anyways, Mary's going to give the keynote address tomorrow at the summit, and she's going to give us a little preview of it tonight. Mary, please. He motioned me in front of him. I took my place, cleared my throat gracefully with the sound of hem, and began. We, the white, God-fearing citizens of... Looking up at my audience, I stopped myself short when I saw my sister standing hand in hand with Governor Manning. At the sight of them, I burst into tears before fainting and falling backward into a punch bowl. The drenching of the punch bowl revived me rapidly, whereupon I sprinted from the room and ran to the depot. These words I now write. I hope I hath not missed my train. Mary Chesnut. July 15th, 1861. Do you travel often? The question was asked of me as soon as I seated myself in third class. Yes, I was in third class. My reasons for finding myself removed from the class of first, bumped, as the lower white traveling trash say, I hath not the patience to detail in this diary. Do you travel often? The masculine voice lobbed the question to me once more. I refused to acknowledge him. In choosing to do so, I presumed him to be irked that a lady of my obvious standing would say nothing to a lesser white such as he. Do you travel often? He repeated his query a third time. A third time! Would he not get the hint? Believing he would continue and unwilling for him to keep testing me, I cleared my throat exaggeratedly, as in an announcement. Maintaining my usual proud and erect posture, I turned to face him down, flicking my fan open as a cobra does her hood, prepared as I was to inform him that despite my being in this poor section of seating, I was indeed a first-class passenger and cared not to discuss anything with the likes of him. I halted when I noticed his fine plaid suit, a gilt pocket watch festooned across his velveteen vest, a well-fed abdomen beneath. He smiled at my melting scowl, showing a front tooth of gold, its sparkle seemingly enhanced by the Confederate flag lapel pin twinkling beneath it. It was then I recognized him as a fellow first-class passenger who likely suffered my same fate of being bumped. Justifiably embarrassed, yet glad I was fortunate enough not to have vocalized my assumptions, I returned his smile, noting his pleasantly greased hair and fine demeanor. This man, in his finery, was obviously of my relatively equal social standing. I travel more often than I should want. I coyly responded to his question regarding how often I travel. Ah, yes. Me too, my lady. And so began a most pleasant conversation as we traveled the rails through the Virginia countryside on our way to make Asheville, the site of his destination and of my connection. I learned he was an attorney, specializing in brokering tobacco, cotton, and manure futures. We spoke of the conflict brewing betwixt the states, of Dixie, ballroom dancing, our own superiority over others of lower castes, and of being good Christians. I told him of my sufferings of motion sickness. He kindly cured me with a peppermint. I told him of my beliefs. He complimented my intellect. He permitted me to lean over his seat to look out the window as he informed me of the landmarks we passed. The 6 hours of our journey drew us close as 6 lifetimes. The leather seat cushion beneath my dress felt steamy on my moist thighs. I waved my fan vigorously with ardor. He patted my forehead with his silken handkerchief. He gazed deeply into my eyes, to my very soul, the gold tooth dancing all the while, a smile within a smile. As we neared Asheville, oh, how I dreaded our separation. I wanted to feel him, to shed my confinement of dress and his prison of plaid, embrace him in the lavatory, locking lips, my tongue caressing his gold tooth, as his thundering engine thrust itself at full steam deep into the dark depths of my tight tunnel, until at last it crashes, exploding itself within me. The more vulgar slang of traveling men term such rendezvous on the rails as, quote, joining the 30-mile-an-hour club. I never knew from where the desire welled up, yet listening lustily to his discourse on manure commodities against the rocking of the train across the rails, an aphrodisiac. Oh, I must declare, oh God in heaven, I felt the burning deep within. I must go to the lavatory, I stated abruptly, before bending to his ear, requesting in a hot whisper, trembling with expectation. Come see me in a few minutes, so I may ready myself for you to induct me into the 30-mile-an-hour club. I'll rest a key atop the door facing for you to let yourself in. I flew to the lavatory at the rear of the car. Shutting the door, I stripped to nothing but my boots. Sprawled on all fours, I waited, my gaping nether regions facing openly upward at the yet-to-be-opened door, my hot moisture cooling in the open air, tantalizing me all the more. Just then there was a singular thudding boom against the door. It fairly sounded as a gun. Terrified, I clapped my thighs together and immediately dressed myself in a haphazard way, with most unbecoming results, I will admit. I next tried to exit the lavatory, but alas, the door would not budge. Ladies and gentlemen, I heard the announcement through the door, this is your conductor speaking. Please take your seats and fasten your seat belts. The engineer has informed us we will be experiencing some turbulent tracks as we make our approach into Asheville. In a screaming, steamy hiss, the train arrived soon thereafter. In some minutes, an attendant opened the door, surprised that a lady of my social standing would have been barricaded in the lavatory by a beverage cart. I scoffed at him, as is my wont, and disembarked the now empty train. I made my connection to Camden, and never again saw the man with the plaid suit and the gold tooth. Mary Chesnut.